Awesome. Hey, this is the Go Tiny Showcase. I'm Lindsay Wood, your host, and super excited. We had just finished Tri-County Home and Garden Show, and we like to bring these Go Tiny Showcases out to you on webinar form. Not everyone can be attending the shows, so we want to bring a little juice of the tiny home by. What's sitting behind me in this great view is one of my clients, Rulico, out of Ohio. Awesome, awesome. And I love that I'm seeing everyone from Idaho to Oregon. Weisen Weinger, Mark the Whip Wenger from Fresno. Yay. See, there's people from all over the place. I love it. I love it. Okay. And you're all here for, I'm assuming, tiny homes, right? You're in the right place. Good. And those suppliers that are doing the right things for the world of tiny. All right. So the way we like to do this has been done a few times, is really do a kind of a round robin of organizations that are making a big difference, innovating, leading the industry of tiny homes, because there's so much to learn about. And so you're going to hear from each of these companies. And I just want to make sure I've got Gold Heat in the house. That's you, Stephen?
Yep. Sorry, I was muted. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next slide. So just to give you a little idea, oh, there we go, wrong button. No, okay, let me do something real quick. There we go, you see us there. That was our very first, actually that's our second showcase. Let's see if I can get that back on the screen. There we go. Our second showcase, we have both indoor and outdoor. This was at the Colorado Tiny House Festival. And you'll see here, these are these big 3-foot wide by 6-foot tall panels. And one of the reasons why I chose to do the Go Tiny Showcase is that I was already doing some sponsorship with companies like Gold Heat, Precision Temp, under the umbrella of the Tiny Home Industry Association. And we decided to large scale it, like really get people information that they may not otherwise get from companies that may not show up at these exhibits, because it costs a lot to send people all over the country. But if we're going to the exhibits pretty much along the West Coast and these tiny home events, let's bring people information about each of these organizations. So super excited to introduce Gold Heat. They're the first ones that stepped forward and said, yes, we love what you're doing. So I'm going to stop my share and give the share to Stephen, and he is going to take it away. These are going to be about 10 minutes total. People get the opportunities to speak up into the moment or leave some time for Q&A. So we are going to give you co-host ability. All right, Stephen, any moment there, you can share your screen.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Stephen, for being here.
It's my pleasure. Alrighty. So, hey guys, how's it going? My name's Stephen James. I am the engineering manager at Gold Heat, and I'm here to talk to you about what we manufacture and provide for tiny homes, right? So, right now, for heating a tiny home, probably the most common option is going to be using a forced air system, right? And while it does work, there are some things that it does, leave to be improved. And namely, hold on, there we go. Namely is that with forced air, you're going to have really hot spots that are really close to the actual vent of the, most of the time it's a mini split system. So it's going to be really hot right next to the mini split, and then it'll go up into the air, and the near the ceiling will be even hotter, right? But as you get away from it, it actually gets really, really cold. And if there's any windows or anything like that, it's going to rob a lot of your heat from your tiny home, right? And additionally, if you live in a really cold climate, like some of the people that we have worked with that are in, Canada, or even on the East Coast, is if you go up towards like Maine or the New England, it gets really cold, right? And it puts a lot of strain on your mini split. Additionally, you can use a space heater. It does work. Again, it takes up square footage in your tiny home, and that's really, really, really important. You normally don't have that much, and getting anything back on your floor is really important.
Here's how I like to say it, Stephen. Keep your body warm from your tiny toes to your nose.
Yeah. And so this is a good little animated picture here that shows, kind of what we do is we make electric radiant floor heat, right? So heated floors, and this is on the left right now is showing a ducted forced air system or a mini split system where there is a vent and a return. I'll wait for it to go back before I continue talking. And you can see the air, it travels around, and right up, there's a column right above the vent. It gets really hot, but then as you get closer towards the return, it gets really cold. With in-floor heating, right, which is what we provide, and here I can hold up what our product looks like. It's a really thin film, right, and it goes under LVT and LVP and in vinyl style flooring. There's another slide that goes into it, but it heats completely evenly across the floor from, it routes around your built-in cabinets and your built-in furniture, right? So that everywhere where your feet can be, and your body, it heats an even column going up from there. And it heats everything that's in its path too. It's not just the floor. So, and it works on the same sort of premise as like rays from the sun. So that feeling that you get when you're standing in the sunshine is the exact same science as what radiant heat is doing in your tiny home. Again, with heaters, it leaves some things to be desired. It can add a vent into your wall. Some people don't like that. It does make a lot of noise, and and our heat and our radiant heat, the whole purpose of it is so that you don't feel any of the material, you don't see any of the material that we're installing. You just feel the warmth and the heat from our products. Additionally, radiant heated floors, they'll reduce allergens because there are no moving parts. I mean, it is just heat. That is it. There's nothing moving at all. It's just electricity. A really cool byproduct that we in benefit of installing radiant heat is that it actually helps dry out your floors, and that is something that we are very aware of in a tiny home, is that fighting moisture is it's up there in the top, probably the top 5 most important things that you're looking to do when you're designing it. And in general, because it is strictly just electric heating and there's no moving parts, it is extremely efficient, and it uses easily 15% less energy than a forced air system. And so this is what the product was if you didn't see me holding it up. It is a carbon resistive film that is on a plastic backer, and it is about a 32nd of an inch thick, and it lays completely flat, and you lay it down in strips to take up the entire length of your tiny home, right? And we can zone it to be, front, back, side, whatever you would like. We can most of the time do it on one zone as well if you just want the floor to be warm. And the way that you install it is that you really just, once we get the box to you, you take it out of the box, you lay it down, you dry fit it by just kind of laying it out, right? Then you'll mark out where the cold leads are, which are these 2 black things, or the 2 black connectors here, and the wires themselves. You'll route a short little pocket there so that you can route these wires up to your wall. And then from there, it's just now using a spray adhesive and like a rubber roller, or even just your hand or something that's flat, to just make sure that the adhesive sticks to it. And then you can install your floating floor right on top of that. It's really that simple. We're an American manufacturer. We're based out of Hillsboro, Oregon. All of our products are assembled in Oregon. They're extremely high quality. We have products that are over 22 years old in the RV business that are still working today. And because there are no moving parts, there's no maintenance involved. You can be pretty worry-free about electric radiant floor heating. And so if you want to look us up and figure out how to get us, ask your builder for Gold Heat by name. That's probably the biggest thing to do. And then if you need a builder referral, let us know. That's Russ's contact info. He's our VP of business development. I'm filling in for him today, but if you guys need that, it is right there. And that's all I have. Are there any questions? Let's see.
You can put in the chat, or people can what do you call it? Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Jennifer says, love how simple it seems. Yes. I
Yep.
can share that this isn't our tiny home, but similar where our mini split was above and Eric was sitting below because it's above his office. He's super cold right below the heat. And in fact, we have to like drive heat down, which is completely against physics, right? What does heat do? Rise. And so it's great when it rises naturally from your toes to your nose. And I've been saying that for a few months now. And it's true. So it's much easier, especially in a small space, and you've got that heat. You know, if you've got a home sitting somewhere and you don't have something skirted and you drop down in temperature, now you've got, you know, a lot of that cold that can come up to your home no matter how much you're insulated. So better to actually have everything being warmed and heated versus where all that, you know, condensation and coolness contains. So cool. Stephanie asked a question, multiple zones for the bathroom to the living room and on timers.
Yeah, so we can zone it. It's all going to be about, you know, you could add a single breaker and then from there create a circuit that is for your floor heat, right? And then you could have two thermostats that are zoned where one is at 78 degrees and that's floor temperature, and then one is at, I don't know, 84 or something, right? And then for the timers, we have a recommended thermostat for smart thermostating, and it works with a smart home integration, so like Alexa or Google Home. And then from there you can create any number of different programs that you would like, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, your floor turns on at 9 and it turns off at 11 and then turns back on again when you come home. You know, you can do any number of things like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Anyone have any more questions? You can put them in the chat. We can maybe grab them at the end. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm super excited. We'll be representing you at Tiny Fest in Pleasanton coming up. So just keeping the dream alive and helping everyone, you know, really, because tiny homes are all built from scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're models or custom. In the construction phase or in the planning phase is when you want to decide to use gold heat and radiant floor heating. So it's great to have you there. I do want to ask if Ben Milner is here, that because sometimes call-in users don't have their name. You just unmute yourself. Is that you, Ben? Are you there? If not, we're going to shift gears to Eric Wood. I'm going to have him present because the rest of the time I'll be presenting, and that'll give me a chance to call Ben. Okay.
Thanks for having me, guys.
What?
I said just
Hey,
thanks for
Stephen.
having me.
Yeah, let's put your name. Let's see, I put your information in there earlier, and let's make sure it goes in there again.
Yeah, gold heat is in the chat.
Perfect. Okay, so Eric, I'm going to grab your slides really quick.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay.
Yes. All right, so moving right along to my husband, Eric Wood.
Yes.
Tiny Freedom.
Yeah, I was the compadre to Lindsay's at festivals when I was helping man the booth, and I was promoting Tiny Freedom. It's what I do as opposed in complementary to my wife's wonderful outreach and evangelism of tiny houses. When Lindsay actually got a job last year where she was interviewing over several hundred tiny home aspiring buyers, and most of them, like a good solid 60 or 70% said finances were a major concern about either getting into one or being in one. And that's so part of my response is being a financial professional is, well, let's develop programs that help people towards a tiny house, or even once they have a tiny house, what to do with all the money they're saving in rent and land. And so I run a financial education program where I help people become financially independent. And who cannot be excited about financial independence? And so part of my education, I'm just going to review a few concepts. You've probably been drifted in and out of several of these over time. But the first one I want to remind people is the power of compound interest. This is the power of simple habits done early, done for long enough time to create major changes. And in this graphic, this is just a sample graphic, two investors, one saves from age 25 to age 34 and he saves $1,000 a year at 8%. 8% is just an example, but over time, he doesn't even add another penny after age 35, and that grows to $157,000. And another investor starts 10 years later and then invests the same $1,000 all the way to age 65. And as you see, at the same interest rate, that second investor can never catch up to that early investor who invested early, often, and even for a shorter amount of time. So this really indicates the power of starting early and setting yourself on a path to financial independence. Okay, next slide. I also teach about diversification, and you've heard it from your mother, you've heard it from your parents. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So Lindsay and I got a graphic of eggs in a basket. And in this one, you're putting in all your assets classes in retirement, your equities, your shares, your property. And it's really important to spread that out, to spread that into different places so that if there should be any kind of economic turmoil, that maybe it doesn't happen equally to all of them. And that helps reduce your personal risk, and it helps ensure that you can have your financial independence number. Here's an example of what different generations are doing with their financial diversification. This is just an example of what the World War II era investors are doing, what boomers are doing. Boomers were a larger era of people. Gen X was a little smaller. I'm a Gen Xer, Lindsay's a Gen Xer. And then we're being followed by another boom called the millennials. And they're all choosing different things. This isn't like ideal numbers. This is just like what people are doing now. And the important thing for you is, what would you like to be doing, and where, and what's it going to take to get to there? Where do you want to diversify your asset classes?
And one thing I want to point out is the differential on here's the real estate, right? The real estate really jumped up on actually investable assets. Let's see, investment real estate right there, 5%, 7%. So thinking about these tiny homes and where they fit in the world of millennials, and how much in your portfolio that really can contribute, because there's ways that if you can save money from your housing, you can put that into different investment buckets. And that way we get away from this whole having to spend so much on our housing. It's something Zach Giffen speaks a lot about. You know, not only is he someone that's great at knowing how to build things, but he's also an economist, and really focuses in on, you know, that hamster wheel effect of having, you know, to run our housing prices, you know, and keeping us in that situation. And so really investing in a tiny home can be very much a part of also taking some of those funds out and putting it into other buckets.
Very good. Thank you, Lindsay. Another thing we focus on is tax engineering. It sounds like a fancy term, but we try and break it down and make it simple, that there's only really three buckets of savings accounts that you can orient towards your retirement. The first is taxable, and that's pretty ordinary. You go down to the bank and get a savings account, a CD, checking account, even in cryptocurrency, and that it's taxed early and often. So it's not really for long-term savings, but it's really great for liquidity, because, you know, if you come into a pinch, it's right there. The second bucket we look at is tax deferred, and that's where you save money on taxes now, but then you pay taxes later. And that's your 401ks, your IRAs, your Septs, your annuities, your savings bonds. Yeah, you're paying taxes later, but there's two questions that we have, which we wonder about paying your taxes later, is you don't know what taxes are going to be when later. I mean, the government is how reliable? You know, it's as low as it's ever been, I can say that, and nowadays, but in the future, you can't guarantee your tax rate. And the second is that a lot of senior citizens report that they expected their income to go down in their retirement, and so they could take advantage of these lower tax brackets. But often that doesn't happen. They report that their income goes the same or even up. And then they get into required minimum distributions. And so they're paying all these taxes unsurprised, without planning. And so the third big category is the one I focus on because it's the underutilized, it's tax advantaged. And there's only two ways to save tax advantaged: the Roth IRA and cash accumulation in life insurance. And we can talk about all of those. So very important to do that. And finally, protection of assets is another big category, which what would be the point of saving a whole big nest egg, but then maybe a suit happens, or you get sued, or a bankruptcy because your cash flow, you can actually, the judge can actually make you liquidate certain accounts without for having to pay the judgment. So that's why we get into trusts and wills. So here in this case, a living trust. So it's a pretty simple setup. It's really important for everybody to have a trust. If you don't have one, if your parents don't have one, it's really important to avoid probate, which is it's like the DMV of estate law. It's pretty awful. I'll show that in the next slide. But once you get your living trust set up, you can put all your assets in it, and then they're more protected and under more your control. So what's the difference between a will and a living trust? A lot of people think they're kind of the same thing. Well, there's a big difference. A will doesn't protect you from probate. A will, a will is public document, not private. A will has less time consuming to create. It's pretty quick, easy to create a will. It's actually just a letter. It's a formalized letter. A trust takes a lot longer. There's other aspects here that I'm going to talk about, and I'll get into that. But trust is the one to go for, and they're not even all that hard to get. And the big prize is, what's your financial independence number? And that's that number at which your passive income is greater than your living expenses. And then basically your assets continue to rise every year because you're no longer expending out your principal. And it's actually pretty easy to calculate once you do a financial needs analysis. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. And so I'm inviting everybody to take a 15-minute financial discovery call with me. There's my QR code right there on the slide, and Lindsay will post my Calendly in the slot. We'll talk about what your goals are. And then I want to show you something a little bit more in depth of what I showed today about what I educate about. And finally, third, we do a financial needs analysis. And it's kind of an in-depth, step-by-step procedure to investigate what your cash flow is actually like and what solutions you're needing. And so the fourth appointment that I like to give is the financial solutions presentation. And this is no obligation at any point. You're not committed to anything, but if you like what you hear and you want to continue, then we go from there. And so that concludes my prepared presentation. I'm also open to questions if somebody wants to throw something in the chat. Lindsay's going to throw my Calendly also into the chat. I appreciate. And yes. Otherwise, if there's no questions, I'm going to throw it right back at our hostess, Lindsay Wood.
Okay, I'm typing. Here we go. So I love wealth building. It's part of the whole real estate thing. And in this moment, I don't have time to go too much into it, but I've been asked to be a part of a tiny home summit where there's a pre-recording being done by Ethan Waldman. And one thing we're going to be talking about is how our tiny home was used to rent on Airbnb as well as a full-time rental. So I'm going to be talking about that in the summit. I know that's coming out in mid-September. So I don't have the link exactly right now. I know that it's going to be promoted, but we'll be sending that out soon. So is Ben here at all? I'm not sure if Ben showed up. I will continue on. Okay, so here we go. Some of these wonderful people are out in the East Coast, so I have taken the big step to actually pre-record. So I'll do my best without Ben here to talk about Univix. Actually, it's something that is really close to my heart and my experience. So my husband and I went TiNY in 2017, and we knew that we wanted to travel and be off grid. And one of the ways we were able to do that is with solar. However, the solar system that we ended up with was not ideal, and I wouldn't even mention the name ever again because it actually needed a lot more work. So we bought the system for $10,000, and we had to put another $7,000 into it, as well as installation, even to get the thing running. So it was something that we trusted our builder to do. And for those of you that don't know, our builder went out of business in the middle of our build. So we've learned so much in the process. And the solar system was one of the biggest issues. So when I found Univix, and here's the video I'm going to show you, I was just so thrilled. Hey everyone, we're here at the People's Tiny House Fest, and the bank by Univix is charging all these tiny homes right here. And we have got to give you the little in look 200-watt flexible panel. Look how thin that is. And then we've got the carbon batteries. A lot of people have heard of lithium, but these last longer and don't deal with so much inflections of heat and cool. Inverter, battery, charge controller, and
I'm Chris Miller with Univix. Visit univix.com and check us out.
All that in under a minute, right? So you could tell I was trying to get all the pieces. So I just want to hear from those of you that are here. Is anyone interested in using solar in your tiny home or cabin or home on foundation? Anyone interested in doing that? There we go. Yes, Christina. Okay, cool. So here's the pop quiz. What is the component that makes an off-grid solar system work? Now, granted, they all need to come together, but what's like the number one thing that you need to store energy in? That definitely the sun. Yeah, for sure. The sun, the solar panel. What's that one? The battery. Because the battery is what is going to hold the energy from the day's sun into the night when you're using it to run the lights, TV, you name it, computers, all the things. Okay, so good. I'm glad we got the batteries in there. So this is some of the components that Univix provides, which is so great because inside the inverter is also the solar charger. You usually have to buy all these pieces together and put them together. But because Univix actually became a company because of a solar design challenge, is something that Chris, the gentleman you saw quickly in the video, had been teaching off-grid solar and green building design for 25 years. They're based out of New Hampshire, super dedicated to easy to install, easy to use, 100% recyclable, and powerful, right? Those are all the things. Oh, and one more, affordable. Because if you'll notice here, carbon battery of $789, that is not what you pay for lithium. And in fact, many lithium batteries actually don't have the full 100%, only 80%, but I'm getting ahead of myself because I have a whole battery slide. And so we also have the flexible panel, extended display. These products here are what you can use to actually build into your tiny home. Let's say you're going to have a cabinet on the outside of your home or inside because you want to keep these not exposed to the weather. Now, lithium batteries have more of a, sensitivity than the carbon batteries do, which I'm super excited to share about. However, all of these components can come together and be put into your home, especially if your builder does not already sell the solar. There's a lot for builders to know. So for them to become experts also in solar and off-grid technical engineering, that's quite difficult. So I'm going to move on to the carbon battery. Hearing that the carbon battery was 100% recyclable. Now the reality is carbon, there's some elements of glass. It's much like the lead acid, but there's no liquid inside of it. And that it is literally more of like a glass inside. And so the way it charges, you get the full power, you get the full 250 milliamps of power. And for the price that it provides, it also is not affected by the high swings of heat and cold, like the lithium batteries were. For 2 years, I sold off-grid solar and it was all about lithium batteries. However, the price was up there. So one of the questions I had for Univix was like, well, if my system cost me $10,000, would a system with you guys cost me less than that? They said probably half. And that's really the biggest barrier that I found in selling off-grid systems is now you're buying this tiny home, you've got all this money invested, and now you want the solar system, you're talking $20,000 to $30,000 often. So if you can have that into the 5 to 10, depending on your solar needs or your electrical needs, now we're really talking, right? And in fact, the conversation around financing with some of the companies like 21st Mortgage, if you're able to embed that into the whole system, now you're able to finance that. So super exciting. I will say that because of these carbon batteries, the tax credit does not apply. However, because it's like off by some percentage. However, because the batteries are already less expensive than the lithium, why actually need the tax credit in the first place? You have to go chasing that tax credit and get the money back, from your taxes versus like a rebate right there. So that's really exciting. Okay, so that's the carbon battery. They also have a turnkey system called the bank because not everyone and not every builder wants to actually have, something built into your system. You may want to have your power system portable. So if you've got a bumper pull or even maybe a gooseneck, depending on the size and where the gooseneck fits into the truck, you could pull the bank there. And now that becomes your power system along with the solar panels. And there's actually a point you might want to have your solar panels over here if your tiny home's over here under shade, right? Depends on where your systems are. And then another huge considerations for off-grid. It's super important. I know a lot of people want to heat everything, with electric. However, heating water, heating your space, and heating your food is very energy consumptive. The only difference is with gold heat, radiant floor heating is when you can absolutely, get more into using energy efficiency and the energy efficiency of heating from the floor up. But it all depends on this right here, the sun, right? What are the hours of day that sun is pumping that energy? And at which time in the day do you need it to be hot or cold, right? If you're in Arizona and it's hot during the summer, like it's coming up on the big heat wave right now, then your sun is actually out when the heat is the most. Versus cold day in winter, the sun hasn't risen, it may not rise at all, it's snowing, it's raining, whatever, and now you want to heat your space. Most likely you're going to want to do that with some type of propane or natural gas or wood when it comes to heating, especially if you're fully off-grid. Okay. And so the Univix process is definitely to get in touch with these two. This is Chris, this is Ben, and this is their production manager. And they're definitely informed on knowing how to reach out and connect with people. And Eric, if you could grab that link, univix.com, and put that into the chat, that would be great. Actually, let me stop my share because I got a little bit out of sequence. So we're going to get back in. Any questions on that? I may not be able to. I'm curious if Ben joined us. If you didn't, if you haven't been familiar with Univix before, they're new to the tiny home world because they're in New Hampshire. And so by meeting them in Colorado and then adding them to the Go Tiny Showcase, now they're going to be present at, let's see, a total of 5 shows because we only met them in Colorado and we had 5 left to go in the year. But that way we can start communicating about products that can really innovate, be affordable, powerful, and obviously renewable. Okay, so let me go to here and get back to, here we go. My next presentation is Precision Temp. They are also on the East Coast, so this is 8 o'clock for them. And we will go ahead and share my screen. Anyone heard of Precision Temp out there? Anyone go to events? Let's see, let me get my chat up. All right, so Precision Temp. My big question is, how do you want your hot water? You know, personally, I want my hot
My wife
water
and I
reliable.
like sailing.
Oh,
When
sorry.
we met,
And this is a question I posed to the founder, Jerry, when asking him, how did you get started in Precision Temp?
my wife and I like sailing. When we met, she had the same sailboat I had. And so later on, we started chartering boats and then down in the Gulf. And on every larger boat we got, we couldn't take a real shower. It was a 5-gallon water tank. You had to start the diesel engine for 20 minutes or half an hour to be able to get enough hot water to take a shower. And after we got home, after a couple of those trips, we thought, we got to do something about this. So I was still working in the media at the time. And my part-time job was at my house, just started designing a tankless water heater. And we ran ads in the sailing magazines. And all of a sudden, we started getting phone calls. I was like, my gosh, we had to build these. But anyway, it was a small, compact unit that mounted it in the cockpit of the boat, size of a phone book. And it was the first real tankless water heater for the marine industry. And we designed the first pilotless water heater of any kind in the world.
And so the super important thing to note is what you really want in your on-demand hot water tank is reliability. You know, tankless so that you never run out of hot water. So important. And that's the beauty of what these on-demand systems provide is reliability. And what's so great about the RV 550, that is one of the products that has really been hot in the market, you know, is providing that tankless water heat to an industry that is on the move.
5 days a week, we have a human on the phone. Basic questions can be gotten, both sales questions and features, and our manuals are online, and the warranty online. By the way, it's 2 years parts and labor. But can you go to precisiontemp.com and click the proper links for the product that you want to look at, and it'll give you comparisons, installation instructions. And when people buy directly from us, we say the manual will come in the box, but if you want to get a head start on it, go online, read the manual, and it's very straightforward, simple installation, but read the manual. If you have any questions, call us. I just can't emphasize the calling us for questions, whether they're installation questions, feature questions, or service questions.
Another important feature is that with no pilot light, you get up to 35% more efficiency. And this is featuring the Twin Temp 2, that's a bigger system, also tankless water heater plus hydronic heat. So it can provide more of that general space heat. One thing Stephen talked about with Gold Heat, I don't know if he mentioned it, but you know, if you get really low on the temperatures, that's when more of a heater will need to kick in. And this would be a really great pairing with the Gold Heat system, as well as the hot water tank. The hot water system without the tank. And that's what's great about providing you with more efficiency. You know, it's really, at the end of the day, when you have a tiny home, it's all about the systems that you're using. If you're connected to the grid, it's less likely that, you know, you're impacted. But if you're doing anything off grid, that's really something that, you know, you want to make sure all your systems are the most efficient, especially even if we're paying on grid.
Newer tiny home builder just up the road from us in Cincinnati that is going to be building for the market and for veterans. And he just installed his first NSP, which is going to Texas. Well, this is a large tiny home, but the next one he intends to do the Twin Temp. So we go up and audit his installations to make sure things are going well. And he said he was looking forward to using Precision Temp now for a couple of years, and that he just did his first one. So.
What's great about Precision Temp is they are focused and dedicated to making sure safety is at the top of the list. So I use this last because I have my own little story of our on-demand hot water tank. When we, you know, our builder said goodbye, we had to put in our own. We as DIYers, surprise DIYers, did not know that you needed to have a certified for mobility, right? When these things shake, rattle, and roll going down the road, little parts could end up breaking. So what they do is they put these under a vibration test. And then once everything obviously is still working, that becomes certified to meet ANSI and CSA standards, that's Canadian, for movable tiny homes. So super important. Everyone needs to know, if you're working with builders pretty much know this, but it's always great to check ones, especially if you're working with any new builders. If you're working with new builders, tell them to call Precision Temp, because they're pretty much a tried and true in the industry. A lot of builders use them, and really they want to use the right kind of product, because the last thing they want is someone to call and complain or have an issue. And that's very much what happened to us when we bought a product off Amazon. We didn't know it was really for a permanent, home that didn't move. And I've seen actually one other builder use that same exact on-demand hot water system, and told them right away. But fortunately, he had just installed it, never turned it on. And I said, if you take everything apart, put it back in the box and send it back, you can probably at least get your money back, maybe with a restocking fee. And that I've actually told a number of people, that just thought they could order anything just like a regular home would need. But a movable tiny home, definitely, even if you're getting it in a factory and it rolls on the road a few miles, it needs to be built and designed for movability. Okay. And so with that, Eric, if you could share the information, let's see, what system is more efficient, electric or gas? I realize it depends if you have a gas availability. So what the Precision Temp comes in is actually only gas or propane. And in terms of more efficiency, do you go with electric, gas? You are using a lot of electricity. If you're on a solar system and going off grid, that's going to be a lot of power. You're going to have to really increase your solar gain or add in a generator, because there's a certain point, if you have a cold, snowy, rainy, dark day, and you need that hot water tank or that hot water to run your shower, then that would be one of the issues that you've got. Or you're just using more electricity to heat water, but those do exist. I don't think they have them with the Precision Temp. They just do propane or gas. All right, so the Tiny Home Industry Association, here we are. This is largely how I got my start in knowing more about the industry. It was my first tiny home show, and my buddy Alex from Pacific West Tiny Homes. You might see some familiar faces. We got Dan Fitzpatrick, Legalizing Tiny Homes, Zach from Tiny House Nation, Byron, a number of builders around the country, really dedicated to advocating for legalizing tiny homes. Who currently lives in either a city, county, or state that has any tiny friendly ordinances? All my California people should say, yes, me. Now, if you're in California, do you actually live in a city that has become tiny friendly? That's what I'd love to know. Placer, that's right. Jennifer, oh my God, we're gonna be talking about that in a moment. Awesome, so Placer County has gone for it. And let's see, question about Tamsin, talked about tiny house, blah, 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 blah. Left over to show you at school. Awesome. Was building for me. Okay, yeah, great. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's see, not for tiny homes on wheels, but ADUs. That's right. State of California, state of Washington, state of Oregon, city of Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, and then counties and places around the country actually have approved where an accessory dwelling unit is allowed in the backyard of a single family home. It means there has to be a single family home. And then think your cottage, granny unit, in-law unit, all of those are what people call an ADU, which is accessory dwelling unit. However, in California, what's been the easiest to do is amend that ordinance and allow it to be a movable tiny home. And what that does is it just allows more access to the use of tiny homes as permissible and permanent housing. Here's the kicker. Those movable wheels, they've kind of drive people crazy because they think of them as RVs, but they're not RVs. They're built with 2x4 construction. And this is just some of what being a part of THIA is all about. You get access to THIA Thursday webinars, networking events that happen at different shows are where the commercial builders and suppliers are getting together. This is where the industry starts talking. It's where Dan and Nick and David right there from NTA start talking about the new building standards, and they're not new, but they've been around long enough where we can start building to the ANSI, IRC, and HUD standards. Now I talk about that in my Go Tiny Academy for like a full hour. So this is just a little drip here, but this is where people like Builder Nick, David Tompos from Certification NTA, Dan Fitzpatrick, and other builders get together at these networking events so that we keep moving things forward. And I think we've had 9 of them so far. We have one at every event we go to. And then we do exhibits and really educate people about legalizing tiny homes in their own area, because the biggest question is land. Anyone here looking for land to place a tiny home still? Is that something that is still an area for you that you're looking to solve? Then put land in the comments, because land is one of the biggest ones that we need to learn about. And a lot of people that want to buy land and place a tiny home on it, oftentimes they're running into building standards and zoning law issues, and those kind of overlapping. Awesome. Tamsin owns her own land. Lisette says yes, land. And I know, Tamsin, we're going to talk a little bit about your tiny home. Okay, so the other one I want to shine a little light on is the THIA Ambassador Program. Companies like myself tithing a percentage of money that I make from my consulting calls or my Go Tiny Academy, then I want to actually sign people up as tiny home members, because the more that the THIA group can get funding, because a 501c6 does not allow them to raise money like a 501c3 nonprofit, charity organization. But a 501c6 allows us to lobby. And that is super important when you're going up and talking with elected officials from all over the country. So I do want to mention the next event is Tiny Fest, September 10th and 11th. They're in Pleasanton. Super excited. Anyone planning on going to Tiny Fest in Pleasanton? Bring it on. So the last one I want to share about is Placer County approving tiny homes. Very much THIA is behind, as well as Dan Fitzpatrick is behind this. And Placer County did an amazing thing. They're, I think, the first county ever to have done this, where they allow not only movable tiny homes as ADUs, like I mentioned, also cluster developments. This is where we can get into more of that tiny home village that a lot of people are looking to do. And we need more and more of those in the state of California. You'll find tiny home villages in Colorado, in Texas, in other places around the country, but very few of them are in the state of California because land is expensive, and RV parks and mobile home parks, aren't necessarily up for sale too often. And most of these communities are actually down south. And if they are a community, it's likely that they're a short-term rental because it took a long time. One of my friends is working on hers, and it's been about 2.5 years. So the short-term model is going to have to happen. I love it. Wind River Tiny Homes. Augusta, Georgia just passed a tiny home village ordinance for tiny home on wheel developments. Yes, we need more and more of those, because not everyone wants to do with their own land and figure that there's enough to figure out with the tiny home, the financing, much less, figuring out the land. But let me just point out, they're also allowing movable tiny homes on certain zone properties as standalone units or primary residences. So what you can do by going here, just kind of jump out for a second and being brought to THIA. This is where you can learn more about the movable tiny houses in Placer County. And I will put that link right here in the chat. There we go. All right. So let me go back, find my way. Excuse me. By jumping out, I got pulled in. Anyone have any questions about THIA? Any questions for the THIA world? Anyone members from THIA?
Lindsay, I think you got Trudy wanting to ask a question. She's got her hand raised.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was not looking at, there we go. Trudy, yes, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Hi, Trudy. Here, there we go. I'm unmuting her. Oh, Trudy, you're muted. We can't hear you. There we go.
There she is.
I was just saying hi. I just tuned in late.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Great to
you.
have you here. All right, wonderful. Yeah, so THIA, any members here from THIA? Individual members? Thumbs up here, yay, Deborah, Wind River, awesome. Yes, Wind River is a commercial member, doing great things there in Tennessee. Awesome, I'm so excited that, Augusta, is very much a part. Were you guys a part of that? Helping them pass that tiny home development?
We did not participate in that one. I just saw it recently and I'm trying to get an interview with the commissioner who spearheaded that. But we did meet with our mayor here in Chattanooga just on Tuesday, and he was really receptive. And our next step there is to start talking to city council, and they game planned with us as far as who we should talk to and who we can expect resistance from. So we've got some things in motion that we're excited about.
Yes, in fact, it's so important. One of the things, just to shine a little light here again on the Tiny Home Industry Association, is that when you join the industry, it's only $25 for those that aren't, because I know we sent out a number of posts, is that, here I am inside, I should be inside my account. If not, it's pretty easy to get in. There's resources available for people that are looking to go tiny, and also buy land or advocate to get your area legalized. So when you're a member, you scroll down here and now we've got these webinar series available, whether you want to learn how to advocate or be in the community development. Now, I'm in each one of these webinar series. That's why I promote it, because I think the information is so important. And for $25, it literally is Dan Fitzpatrick's brain in both of these categories. And he came from government for 20 plus years, as well as a developer. So those two worlds together means that he knew how to talk ordinances and amendments. And we have just been seeing, like, every ordinance and amendments that gets passed, it gets better and better. It gets, more refined. And the recent one with Placer County, the nice part about once an ordinance is out there, other people get to copy it. And governments do copy, right? That is what they do, really good at. It's difficult enough to go out and do your own thing and write from scratch. That's not their forte. Okay, so.
Hey, Lindsay, Tamsin and seems to be showing video of her tiny house.
Oh, cool.
I'm sort of like watching the gallery, and I'm like,
Nice.
oh, I think we're getting a spontaneous tour.
Oh, that's beautiful. So this is a home that Ben Garrett designed, or you designed with him?
I designed with him, he built it, and we talked about it. This is the shed where all the solar equipment is.
Perfect.
I just showed you the loft.
Mhm.
This is he just did an amazing job.
Great.
So obviously the table drops, and then it's, a huge area for somebody to sleep in. Not me, because I'm upstairs.
Upstairs,
And
yes.
where I was showing you, is that blue stuff out there? That's the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. And did you get your property where you are? Did you get a permit to place it there, or was it under the radar?
You are right. It is an unbelievable hassle. And so I do have a permit, but only because I have a quote unquote farm here. So I was able to get an address.
There we go.
That's
We get creative, people.
That's the only way I could do it. And I don't live here full time. So I'll just show you, see, there are a couple more.
This is great. Actually, one of my clients or students from the Go Tiny Academy last year is also getting her home built by Ben Garrett. Ben specializes in healthy building homes. So anyone
Exactly.
that has been affected by mold sensitivity or any kind of chemical sensitivity, he really takes all of that into account, and making sure that home's built not only, with structure and sound, but also with the type of products, that don't off-gas any harmful chemicals or anything like that. So that is wonderful, Tamsin. Thank you so much for showing.
Yeah, I'm not selling anything. Because you and I, Lindsay, had talked about this before, I wanted to, with Ben Garrett, I
Yes.
wanted to show you the result.
Oh, wonderful. Yay. Give her a big, round of applause with our hands.
He's an amazing builder.
our reactions. That is great. I am so excited that you got that. Cool. Well, actually, that is a great segue for me to introduce to you. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. The Go TiNY Academy, drum roll please, if I had to like drums. 2.0 has officially launched. It has been a labor of love. I'll just take you through the cool page that took me a while. You know, when you build a tiny home, it's one thing to learn how to build it. Like, let's say you're just going to DIY the whole thing. It'd be a lot, right? Our builder went out of business. We had a surprise DIY. And what's interesting is when you go to find a place to host a course, it was also an interesting journey. So I finally landed on Kajabi. It is one of the best ones out there. I've tried 4 before getting here. So I expected to have things done much sooner, but hey, it's all in the right timing, right? And it's September. It's the perfect time to unleash this one-stop shop educating go-getters on the step-by-step process of what it truly takes to go from dreaming to living tiny. And so I'll just scroll down some of these things. You know, we really talk about people have 2 options. They either could figure things out on their own or work with an expert like myself who's been there, done that. What's really great is that we have these 5 training modules, access to live monthly Q&As. So that's the key part, because you can only learn so much, you know, even from all the YouTube videos out there and TV shows. But when you actually come online and work with me, then we get to tease out what's ideal for you. And I've been doing this with a number of clients, like you heard from Tamsin. We originally talked on, you know, about her tiny home journey. I just spoke with a woman today that was going down this one path, has a friend with land in San Diego. And by figuring out that the neighbors are not so kind with something that might be under the radar, really kind of figured out what her options were in that area. Fortunately, she happened to live in the county of San Diego where they have a healthcare trailer permit. And I was like, does the owner of the property have any kind of physical need that a doctor could say yeah to, whether it's a knee injury from college, diabetes, I don't care what it is, just go get that permit, because that's really the only way that we can make it happen. Just like Tamsin said about being a farm, you know, we've got to work with what we can work with, right? And so, you know, we talk about tiny home, land, and financing. We take you through the 4 steps to go tiny. Really, these 3 pillars, land, finance, and build, are the biggest things that people need to check off the box for. In her case, she already knew where the land was going to be, but really needed to figure out the permitting. The permitting is going to figure out whether or not you're going to get something built to ANSI, IRC, or HUD. You know, and if those terms are new to you, I know every industry has their acronyms, then it's super important to understand that building standards, which apply to the building, and zoning laws, which apply to the land, have to, you know, go be harmonious together, or you're going to have to figure out ways to do it. And the other part is financing will also overlap into the other 2. And then we've got some great graduates that have graduated. Stacy Murphy's well on her way with designing her tiny home. Andrea just picked up her home, much like Tamsin just did, which is super exciting for me. The fact that I've worked with them, helped them make their decisions, you know, go from being renters to homeowners is like, just, you know, I feel like I had kids of my own, but they're not my kids. They're my clients. And I, you know, talk about my story and what it's like for us to go through our tiny home experience, sharing the 5 modules from success to the building blocks that really people need to know more about, the pillars, the 4 steps, the 4 types of tiny homes. Also, how to finance a tiny home, what is really ideal for financing land in a tiny home, if you need to repair credit, and you know, the best financing terms that are out there. And also very much the land. This is where we do a deep dive on zoning laws and creative strategies to find parking, like we just talked about with Tamsin and the woman I mentioned today. And then finally, this is the one, the build was absolutely what I spoke about for a full year, you know, before I started speaking more about building standards. That's because our own builder had gone bust. And we knew, you know, that we didn't want anyone else to experience that. And I don't know if you guys have caught on that recent article about Holy Ground Real Estate based in Colorado. 3 lawsuits against them right now. So that's something you can type in and find out more about. In the Go Tiny Academy last year, 2 of my students were actually interested in going with Cheeky Monkey that ended up stealing $80,000 of deposits. You know, we fortunately caught them in time. Like, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. Another one wanted to go forward with another builder. And one of my comments was, go check out their social media. See if you like how they share themselves personally. And she found that that did not align with her values. And she had already gone pretty far and was having already some issues with the builder. So these are stories that I don't want to share, obviously, but you have to share them because the industry is new and many people can come in, and we've got to make sure that we keep every cent of our money. And I don't know if Wind River's still here. They are not the type of builder that is concerned, or Ben Garrett that's been out there, but how are you to know, right? It takes really kind of knowing and being in the industry and hearing more. Holy Ground had a great price, right? Kind of, too good to be true for at least 3 of the people and many people that continue to give them money. So module 5 gets really into the workbook and resources and all the checklists that, we're providing. And then all of the Q&As that we do, we make sure to, record and save in there, and then access to Google Docs of what you can bring to your builder to help you get more organized with your vision. And all of that gives 2 years of access, the monthly Q&As, which is 24 sessions in 2 years. Module 1, ready to start binge watching as soon as you get in. And new modules will be released every week. And as I mentioned, the workbooks, complimentary 1-year membership to THIA. And then, of course, this is an ever-changing industry. And then you can also sign on with a VIP package only, and that gives you access to me. And you and I will do a deeper dive with just your scenario for an hour, and that is the pricing. So I charge 1 hour for $250. Imagine getting 2 years or 24 months of one-on-one Q&A sessions with me. So super excited to be launching that and sharing that with all of you here. And I got one more little juicy tidbit here. Any questions about the Go Tiny Academy? Super excited. There is about 30 builders that are looking forward to the Go Tiny Academy, because the number one reason is that a lot of people, when they call a builder, they will oftentimes say, I'm 1 to 2 years out, I don't know about the land, and I'm not sure about the financing. What's a builder to do, right? They want to do one thing and one thing only: sell you a tiny home, take an order. But there's a lot of education to be had. So I'm teaming up with a lot of builders to drive the people that are, really needing the support into the Go Tiny Academy, so that we can take care of the land conversation, the unique parking scenario, the, all the stuff that the builder's not going to do. Some builders actually have financing and the tiny home to, one of the 3 or 2 of the 3, but other builders don't. So if you're someone that really needs financing and you're going to a builder and you love their design, but they don't offer financing, you're going to need to look elsewhere. So there's all these things that go into a tiny home decision, and I specialize in people just starting out. So whether you're already tiny or other people, we're looking forward to signing up for more affiliates. I'm happy for you to reach out to me and find out more about going tiny. So I'm going to put my information in the chat, and that wraps up the. Actually, I don't know. I have one more thing. I just forgot about it. The VIP tours. Anyone going to Tiny Fest that's here? Anyone? I'm going to share it because of the replay, because this is a video that we created, and it was super fun. What I realized going to these events at all these shows is that, there's the tiny homes and there's the people, and what do you do at an event? And that's where I created the Go Tiny VIP tours. So check it out. Oops, wait, let's get from the beginning.
All aboard.
Tiny Home Lady here. I am with the Go Tiny Academy, And guiding people and going tiny, we thought we would do these VIP tours because, you know, the tiny homes are here, the people are here, and I have been building the network. Hi, it's Lindsay, the Go Tiny lady. I have so enjoyed connecting with Stephanie on her VIP tour. Entrance in, like the doors are closed, you were out there and you walked right in. And what I've learned is what is it? It's not what you know, it's who you know. In our case, it's what you know and who you know. Right?
Do the tour. Spend time with her. She's very smart, okay? Because I didn't know anything, and she knows everything, or a lot of everything.
A lot of things.
Okay, so do it. It's worth it.
Great. And I connected
And
you with a number of people. It's
A
the
lot
network.
of people. It's
The
not what
network.
you know, it's who you know.
Boom. Yep, and I've been building that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining the VIP Go Tiny Tour. All right, I'm here with Nicole and Alex, and you just finished the VIP Go Tiny Tour. How was that for you guys?
It's amazing. So much information, so useful. If you need to have any questions, make sure you talk to the tiny house lady.
All right, there we go. So anyone joining us in, oh yay, Tema, you're going, awesome. We are doing VIP tours because it's a way for, first of all, skipping the line. We do have 2 sessions an hour before the gates open at 9 in the morning. You get to go in and work with me. We can go up to 20 people. I figure over 20 people is a little too much. And we get to meet with the builders and talk with them, get your questions answered besides just standing in line and like getting like 1 or 2 minutes to go into the tiny home. It really also is one of those things where the builders that are there may not also suit what you're looking for. We were in Colorado, and Colorado is having a big shakedown come GLI of 2023, where they don't have as many opportunities for movable tiny home allowances, and the regulations that are coming are going to make it so that you're going to need to buy a home that's built to IRC or HUD standards, not to ANSI standards. So those are some of the things that, you know, otherwise you wouldn't know by seeing a YouTube video about cool tiny homes or even seeing it on TV. But it's absolutely the thing that can, you know, make or break the dream for going tiny. So yay, Jennifer's going to Pleasanton. Awesome. We are looking for volunteers. So if anyone wants to volunteer with our booth, we are going to be the booth that leads you into the Wilderwise, giving you shade, because we felt the way to, you know, communicate our Go Tiny Showcase message is to pull the people that are standing there anyway, give you shade and give you something to read while you're doing that. Very much the showcase that we've done throughout the country here. I think 6 shows so far, and this will be our 7th. Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Do you know how many builders will be there? You know, I know that she's got them on her website, tinyfest.events. So let me just go and peek. Yeah, if anyone needs to pop off, thank you so much for being here, and definitely check out the different companies that we've talked about tonight. And, you know, yay, welcome. Thank you. Let me pause the recording.